Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for day 2 of the e-Hemapai. We had a great day yesterday with our invited guests and speakers, and look forward to another good morning with all of you. We are very excited to gather now, especially in the beginning of spring, as we look forward to more time outside, look forward to planting and harvesting. And so it was really good to see everybody and have those conversations yesterday, and to be reminded of our sense of purpose in our work and growing food, providing for our communities, and also how much that this connection, the connection to our atamhay juhug, our traditional foods, especially bao, how strong that makes us as people and in our community. So today we have another good morning with our invited speakers, our community members, and I invite you to relax and enjoy your day with us. And so right now we're going to get started with our blessing from Miss Lily Wan, who's from Komobawi Communities, Stukdog District, and I'm going to turn it over to her. Go ahead, Lily.
Skukdash, Anyap Jugik, Lily Melissa Wan, Anua Gamihomuko Isaac, Komaki, Kamoya, Nija Abjugik, Edwina Manuel, Nyahud Abjugik, Roselda Manuel, Nyag Abjugik, Elijah Wan, Nyakak Abjugik, Romelda Miguel, Nyawask Abjugik, Sylvester Wan. Hi everyone, my name is Lily Melissa Wan. I am 11 years old. I live in Komobawi and come from the Stukdog District. My mother is Edwina Manuel. My maternal grandmother is Roselda Manuel. My father is Elijah Wan. My paternal grandparents are Romelda Miguel and Sylvester Wan. I'd like to start with our opening prayer. In the Father and the Son, Spirit. Dear Creator, I ask that you bless this day, everyone from near and far. Bless the food, the hands that prepared the food, and the presenters today. I also ask that you bring the rain to water all our plants like our hoon, moon, yaran, and hod. Water our animals and to nourish Mother Earth. Bless the farmers that they have a good harvest season.
Okay.
Creator, I ask that you watch over us during this pandemic and things get better so we can all be together again. Amen. Thank you.
Okay, Sapa, thank you, Lily, for being with us and providing the blessing for us this morning. Thank you very much. Lily's my niece, and I'm really proud of her and glad that she could join us this morning. Just to go over some logistics, if there was a little lag, it was because of our need to wait for the translators. And so if you're just tuning in, we want to make sure that everybody has their interpretation tools on. So if you see at the bottom of your screen, there should be a globe with a interpretation, with an interpretation icon. You would click on that and select your language. If it's English, to listen in English, click English. If it's to listen in Spanish, click Spanish. And also our interpreters, Rebecca and Jimmy, they provided the information for the language interpretation in the chat box. So we're really excited to have our invited speakers today. Again, if you're just tuning in, this is day 2 of the Bao Hemapai. We had the first Bao Hemapai in Komababi community in the Storytellers district last year, and had the chance to gather pre-pandemic to have workshops, to have conversations, and also to eat good food. And we did eat a lot of bao and spend a lot of time cooking together. We also had a cooking competition with some winners coming up with different recipes on the fly in our feast house. We had a lot of fun then. And so this year we are gathering virtually and still, want to bring community together, want to celebrate our foods, especially as we look forward to our planting season. I know some people already have their spring plants going, and also to continue conversations from last year. One of the parts of our work with the International Indian Treaty Council under our food sovereignty program is to advocate for the rights of Indigenous peoples to have access to land, to clean water, to be free of pesticides, and to have access to our seeds, seed sovereignty, food sovereignty in different communities. Throughout the years, IITC has hosted salmon gatherings, wild rice gatherings, buffalo gatherings, taro gatherings. And so bao is something new to the club, introducing foods of the Southwest. And yesterday, it was really evident why that was important, especially in a changing climate, especially in the political climate too. We always have to be on our toes to ensure that us as Indigenous peoples and Indigenous communities have that right to be who we are and to continue our practices, especially as we pass this knowledge on to the next generation. And so this is, why this is so important. And not only that, but just to spend time together. Our presenters yesterday shared some beautiful pictures of work in the fields, working together, and just bringing that sense of community into this virtual platform. And so again, thank you for joining us this morning. One of the things that we will do to get started is just to go over our agenda for today. Chris, can you share that, please? So today, showering in Swam Masha in April. We had our introduction by Lily Wan, and then we are having our t-oidag by a good friend, Gabe Mendoza Sr. from the Cowlick community. And then after that, we will have a panel featuring young farmers, Mr. Gilbert Villegas Jr. From the Cowlick community, Deandra Porter from the Chulik community, and Kyle Snowball from the Sells community. And following that, a bao recipe demonstration by Romelda Miguel of Adichukshan community. And then to end, we have a video presentation by Mr. Michael Inez, who is going to be sharing one of our traditional stories of bao and also closing us out for the day with the song. So that's our agenda today. Also part of that is working on this outcomes document. Can you share that as well, Chris? When we have our food sovereignty gatherings, we want to make sure that we are collecting the knowledge of the communities, collecting the stories of the communities, and documenting our assertions to the rights to our food, what they mean to us, how we want to protect them, and also some things to look out for in the future. And so last year when we had the i-Hemapai and Kumababi community, we spent an evening with everyone in attendance talking about some of these things. And it's a live working document. It's not necessarily set in stone. There's a lot of work to do behind it within our own community, but also internationally, or with the work that ITC does. This helps us to have a foundation when we're advocating for the rights of Indigenous peoples here in the Southwest, but also in our local communities and in the O'odham community. And so what we'd like to ask you today is to take a look at the outcomes document, and we will provide the link to the document in the chat box, and to invite you to offer recommendations for edits, for additions, or even if there's something that we should consider taking out, and to update that for the community and for our continued work. Specifically, some of the articles that we want to share that we use in this work coming out of the UN Declaration for the Rights of Indigenous People. I'm trying to share that here. These are booklets that ITC does have available to the community or to colleges or different institutions that do want to educate themselves on the rights of Indigenous peoples. And within that, specifically, we look at Article 20, that Indigenous peoples have the right to maintain and develop their political, economic, and social systems or institutions to be secure in the enjoyment of their own means of subsistence and development, and to engage freely in all their traditional and other economic activities. Also, Article 29, Indigenous peoples have the right to the conservation and protection of the environment and the productive capacity of their lands or territories and resources. And also Article 25, Indigenous peoples have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinctive spiritual relationship with their traditionally owned or otherwise occupied and used lands, territories, waters, and coastal seas, and other resources, and to uphold their responsibilities to future generations in this regard. And lastly, Article 31, Indigenous peoples have the right to maintain, control, protect, and develop their cultural heritage, traditional knowledge, and traditional cultural expressions, as well as the manifestations of their sciences, technologies, and cultures including human and genetic resources, seeds, medicines, knowledge of the properties of fauna and flora, and oral traditions, and that we also have the right to maintain, control, protect, and develop our intellectual property over such cultural heritage, traditional knowledge, and traditional cultural expressions. Okay, so during the event today, we welcome you to click on that link, take a look at the outcomes document, and feel free to add to that. It is a community document, and we welcome all the voices of the community and all of you that are tuning in today. Thank you. So welcome again. I hope you're having a beautiful Saturday morning during this spring day. Here in the Tono or the desert, it's definitely warming up. But for autumn, there's a lot to look forward to, and we really do look forward to some rain. Last year, we had a really hard season, having almost no rain. And so it was really important to reflect on conversations and things that were shared yesterday, especially in terms of flood farming. And rainwater harvesting for our plants, and why that is so important, and for our foods and for our medicines. And so those conversations are important. You know, what are we going to do if there's no rain? How are we going to adapt? How are our foods going to adapt? And so, you know, having that vision for the future is something that I've always really appreciated about t-oidag, about farmers, always thinking ahead and always ready for anything that pops up. And one of those t-oidag is here with us today to start us off. Yesterday I had shared that it was really intentional and important to literally pass the mic to our community members and those who work hard in this work, to you know, have them share what their experience has been like. What are some of the challenges, successes, and you know, why do they love to do this work, in hopes that it inspires many of us to join in this work in reviving our traditional foods and creating healthy communities. Damien Carlos, who was our featured speaker yesterday, a young man from Shikto district, he said, it's going to take all of us, and it's very true. So today's event is a way to do that, to bring us all together. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gabe Mendoza Sr., Cowlick Community, to start his presentation and to start us off today. And thank you again for all being here. Enjoy.
Skexeric was the Jamway. That video was so last minute, and I putting it together this morning. I really was just going to share a lot of what my experiences was, but yesterday was super awesome. Thank you to Amy and everybody that put this together this year and last year, and those that are here with us today. Thank you to everybody that I've come across. There's so much people to express gratitude to. So I wanted to start out with this video because that was a lot of the highlights of what agriculture done for a lot of people. I've always wanted to focus on the larger group. I never wanted to focus on how I contributed or what I've done. So everything that I've learned along the way from the very get-go, I've tried to share as much as I could while learning along the way. So a lot of what you saw in that video brings a lot of great memories to me, and not only memories, but a lot of people that are so hardworking and who are still doing the work today. The place in itself has, come across so many generations from its beginning in time. Even before it became the co-op, the people that put the co-op together had agriculture and the food growing in their families. It was pretty much just a way of life, the cycle of well-being and being able to survive. And then, it growing. So I'm going to stop right there and then take you back. In 2000, I want to say 11, 12, I was approached by some community members to do some fencing work here in the Cali community. It was around that time where Toka was transitioning into the Alexander Ponce Memorial Farms. And at that point, I didn't know too much about agriculture. I didn't know too much about traditional foods. I had an idea or a thought that I've knew what traditional food was all along, to find out that I was wrong. So getting involved in agriculture in 2012 and being given the opportunity made me want to learn more. I remember going out to Papago Farms for the very first time because Toka was getting ready for their food festival. A food festival, I was again unaware of a lot of what things like the food festival and community events like that took place. It was my first time. All I knew was that I was helping to get this time together. So going out to Papago and being asked to harvest corn for the first time, we were dropped off at one end of the field, along with about 6 other guys that I worked with who are also from here in the community of Cali. And the guys knew exactly what they were looking for, what they were doing. Me, on the other hand, I kind of just stood around and watched everybody else and asked one of the guys what I'm looking for, what am I doing? And, so I harvested 60-day corn for the very first time in Papago. And we also hauled back a truckload of Tepary beans. We loaded that up and bring it back to Cowlick. It was going to be part of the giveaway, a part of this community event. And again, still kind of new to the community events and having a new understanding of what traditional foods were, I wanted to know more. So I have to thank my teachers, my mentors, everybody that I've come across through agriculture from the very get-go, 2012 up to now. Nolan Johnson was the overall, person who saw us out in the field, taught us the things that he knew, as well as Anthony Francisco, who was also his, I want to say the sidekick, who also helped us out. And when we would go to Papco, we would spend weeks at a time living in Papco and working in Papco. And the only running water that we had access to was the well that they utilized to water the fields out there. Knowing that we were going to be spending weeks and months at a time away from our families, we were all willing to go out and plant these foods. The more and more I wanted to know more, the more and more I was learning. And I grew or adapted pretty quick. When you want to learn something, know something, and you have that passion or the compassion to just learn and keep moving, like a lot of other things kind of fall where they need to. And for me at that time, it was his introduction to agriculture and the autumn foods. Before all of this took place, my thought and understanding to autumn foods was the foods that was being served at community events. And it's of course all your pinto beans, your potato salad, your jimas, your chili, so on and so forth. This changed everything for me. So much that given the opportunity after helping to apply for a year-long apprenticeship with TOCA, allowed me and others to learn so much more and kind of pave its way of what we were going to do next. After finishing this apprenticeship, I applied for a position there that they were offering us, and it was super awesome. When I think of this video, I think about what I used to see working with TOCA and how the Desert Rain Cafe would supply these foods to the community, and people would come to commune, and we would walk into this place when we were able to be in the office or invited to be in the office for meetings or other things, and it would be busy. And to know that a lot of that food was nourishing so many people, it was everything that you could imagine. The overwhelming feeling of planting a seed and watching it grow, and the roots taking its course, and both underneath the soil and on top of the soil for the very first time. It's that very same feeling that I was getting from watching these people just eat this food that was so hardworking. I have so many great memories of how it's contributed to community and how it's fed so many people and been in so many places. But the main thing I think for myself that I started to want to know more about is the seed, and I started to remember working with Toka and being in the fields in the early mornings. This background is a background of one of the many early mornings in the Sanavir co-op area as we were out there getting ready to harvest corn. So like any other morning, I would spend the time just being able to monitor and take the time to express myself, humble myself for all this teaching, for all this, the gift of being able to gift and continue to gift to the next person. One of my favorite times, I've had so many great moments working in Papago and being able to use siphon hoses and irrigate that way, install irrigation, learn how to work with tractors, learn how to, or what it takes to grow this food in conditions that would take us into the long days and nights, sometimes, you know, working all night because we chose to. Working through the hottest conditions, I believe the hottest that it's gotten when we were out in Papago was 115, and we were still out there. We were still out there because we were determined to harvest this food. We were determined to get the job done. For a lot of us, it was more than just a job. It was more than just this thing that was going to help us to provide for our families financially. It was about the food. And I remember walking into their storage area for the first time and seeing pallets on both sides of this storage area, pallets all the way from front to back on both sides. One side was the white Tepary beans, the other side was the brown red Tepary bean. And I was just blown away. Then going into harvest season and harvesting so much, learning to use a combine, learning to work with equipment, versus those moments where you don't have access to equipment and you have to do what you have to do. So we have moments where we would go to not having access to that equipment and doing everything by hand. So in that video that was shared, there was those pictures where people are in the field, the crew is in the field and they're harvesting by hand. They're transferring from a trailer full of beans onto a tarp for the threshing process, for the cleaning process, because again, we didn't have access to equipment that would have made things easier. But it's one of those things that have definitely taken us back into what it was like before. If we were ever going to experience our grandparents' days of harvesting food and cleaning it, it was the threshing process. It was not having access to equipment. It was having to figure out how you were going to water fields. Transitioning into Papago, from Papago to Cowlake was, I think for me, one of the best times, because I learned the dry land farming, the autumn, the auction farming methods, and really appreciating the rain. And I attended my first rain ceremony because of the time that I spent with Toka. So I got to see and feel my own personal experience of ceremony and how it tied into the work that we have been doing. And being that it was like my first year, it really drove a feeling of belonging to me. I started to feel like I had I finally understood what my role was as not the male, because I can go back and remember as a child, I grew up in several communities, but in one community, my gawk and my wask, you know, they grew food. My grandma, my gawk, was a basket maker. She grew her own devil's claw. We would walk over to my wask, and he would also have gardens. And back then I was young, I didn't know too much of what that was. I just knew it was plants. But I remember these jars of seeds and mayonnaise jars, and wondered to myself why they were keeping these seeds. To me, it wasn't enough to feed our family. So why keep it? You know, being young and not knowing, what little did I know that a handful of seeds can feed more than a community. And so, uh, having that understanding or that feeling of what my role was as, not the male, was part of agriculture, was part of the autumn foods, was part of being able to share and continue to share this information and these teachings. I've been able to experience so much, working with the dryland farm and having to divert water, or, you know, haul water in a 700-gallon water buffalo that wasn't going to water a field, but maybe water half a row to go back, refill, and do it all over again until your fill was done. So a lot of those pictures that Nolan shared yesterday, bring back so much memories. And leading up to today, I thought to myself, like, man, what do I have to share other than my experience? So I again threw that video together, because then that was the next step for me. The next step after finishing the apprenticeship, and thank you again to Toka, to everybody that played their role and provided us with that opportunity. Nolan, Anthony, Nina, Taro, Tristan, everybody that played a role in that, and including the coworkers. It was beyond a gift to me that I wanted to continue on. So I applied at 2 farms. I applied at the Stukdoak farm, and I applied at the Santa Vera Co-op farm. I ended up getting the phone call back from the Santa Vera Co-op farm and working under their food production team back then. And when I got there, there was so much food that was being grown, everything that you can think of, from traditional foods to non-traditional foods. And I was overwhelmed in a very good way, because I felt like I was in the right place. I felt like okay, you know, everything that we've done, it's completely different, but yet the same. The methods were more modern in ways that I wanted to continue learning. I wanted to keep on moving forward, and it was allowing me to advance in ways that I would eventually be able to use, either going to other places, visiting other places, or meeting new people. The community in itself was always super great. The people, the workers, everybody, like, there wasn't a day where people were not hardworking, even through their tiredness, even through the trials and errors, you know, it was a push. And there was so much great food that came out of that. Working with community, working with youth, and encouraging youth was definitely one of the things that came along with being able to have this type of teaching, this type of work. And not only did it allow me to advance in being able to learn more about growing food and its importance to community, and the O'odham people, or the people in general, I wanted so much more to be able to reach as many people as I could. So allowing the opportunity to share my story and where agriculture started, how it's allowed me to grow, where it's taken me, and what I've learned is always easy for me to do, because then I want the next person to be able to have that experience as well in their own way. And if me sharing my story is a way to encourage and support, then I am more than willing to do so. It came in so many forms. The responsibility of being able to continue on the foods growing from generation to generation, that was definitely one of the many gifts and things that I was always grateful for. Mostly because then when we would touch the seed, or we would have the ability to have that seed in our possession, it always made me think back of how many people before me planted these seeds, and how far back did these seeds go. And to me, I would go to the beginning of time, before equipment, before the modern takeover of agriculture. It took me back to cowlick and being able to work with little to no equipment and no running water at all, and strictly and solely relying on rainwater, and believing in ceremony, and hearing songs that were sang for us, or prayers that were said either on our own or by others that extended their support in those ways, definitely have strengthened a lot of us in so many ways. And it's like it was said yesterday, the cycle does not, the wheel does not have to be reinvented. So my encouragement to everybody is that if you have the ability to grow food, if you want to grow food, you can grow food. I've heard so many different things in so many different ways of people that want to grow food and just don't know where to start. One of the things of being able to and it's probably the best thing that I can think of, is if you don't know where to start, it's always ask. And to me, when I didn't know something, I reached out to my mentors. I reached out to elders. I reached out to people that I knew that done the work. And Clifford Pablo is definitely one of the many people that I've reached out to in my time while working in Sanivir, whether he came over to give the helping hand or advice, or through a phone call, he was always able and willing to share that information that allowed us to go out and continue on doing the work. And so for as long as I spent, and super grateful for that time that I was able to spend at the Storytellers Co-op doing this work, I've also learned and had the opportunity to dive into some marketing, some business portions of things, and understand what it means to write a budget and how to break a budget down. All these different things that tied into more business than anything else. I am super grateful to have had that experience, and have that experience that it also, coming to its end, allowed me to take a step back. I spent some time with AHO at AHO CSA, and super grateful for all the work that they do. Thank you. If you all are here, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your team and being able to help however I could have. From that point on, I landed at TOCC. I am currently working under the agricultural internship with Clifford Pablo and Joyce McGill, who have been working for TOCC in their ag department for some time, and come across a lot of people and are doing the same work. By being able to educate and share as much as they know and as they can with agriculture. And the one of the many things that I enjoy the most is being able to take that step back. Because now I'm in a position to where I have learned the groundbreaking process, because for every moment that I've walked into in agriculture, I have, the foundation was already set. The fields were already there. The water was already running. And now, with the extension that they are working on and moving forward into, I've been able to be a part of that groundbreaking process. I've been able to lay irrigation, water lines, level grounds, and go back. It seems like everything has gone backwards. So the learning never stops. For as much as we know and as old as we get, we're learning and we'll continue to learn. The bean in itself, and this conference definitely has given me the opportunity in these couple days to reminisce and just smile all over again, because it's super awesome to me to not only be a part of this this time and this moment that has full of sharing and full of so many people who are interested or wanting to know or already know, to be in one area, to be able to continue sharing that information, continue moving on and thriving in those ways, because the food is there. The only difference that I've been experiencing, that we've all been experiencing, is the time change, the things that have continued to evolve, the change in climate, the less and lesser drops of rain that we get every year, not only affects us as people who want to grow food, farmers, if you will, but it affects the animals. And we see those effects because of their access of not being able to have access to the everyday water or the everyday land full of green, because of the rain, and then it's allowing it to take its natural course. It's not there. So they come into the community, they'll come into your fields, they'll come into your gardens. And that's everything from your four-legged to your winged to the little creatures. We've been experiencing it, and it's a new time. Paying attention to how Mother Earth has reacting to a lot of the change, and is definitely a lesson for us to pay attention as well. Because the seeds not only will adapt to the hotter climates and different changes, we too have to make that change by understanding of how things are working, not being able to have access, as it was mentioned earlier. What are we going to do? So there's so much to share. There's so much to say, and I don't know where I'm at with time, but I want to be able to take this time again to encourage every generation, everybody that is doing the work. Damien, I've had the opportunity to work with Damien at TOCC, super awesome guy with so many great intentions to his generation, the youth and people coming up. That's definitely what I wanted for myself, to be able to continue on sharing what we know to the next person, being able to encourage so much more. So I wanna say thank you again to each and every one of you for being here today, for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit of myself, and how agriculture has impacted my life. It's definitely been a change, because not only has it impacted where it's my path and journey in life and where it's taken me, it's also impacted the way that I choose to consume things, the way that I think and feel that I need to transition as an individual. There is so much illness out there, and a lot of it is based on processed foods and our consumption. Looking back to the time where the foods were naturally grown, locally sourced, and so fulfilling, so tasty. Yesterday's demo for food was definitely mouth-watering, and I'm super grateful that it's still being utilized. I have so much more that I would like to share, and so much more that I would love to pass on as I continue on. So I'm super grateful again to where I'm at, being able to be at TOCC and work with Clifford as one of the many mentors, and to be under his direction at the moment is definitely a huge time and a gift for me to be able to learn, because there's so much more, and as soon as I know that I'm learning, given the opportunity, I'll do just as he is doing, and continue on to pass the work, continue to encourage, and then just have the great hopes that we'll be able to continue on in ways that will allow these foods to grow. So I believe that is my time. And again, thank you all for allowing me to share. Thank you for all the people that are out there doing the work and continue to do the work. Locally sourced food. So you have food that is being grown and put on the shelves in Gila River, as it was mentioned yesterday. Same thing in Ajo with Ajo CSA. And then you got Santa Vera Co-op Farm, who also has their stores, and it's growing locally grown food, and super awesome work all the way around. So one thing I want to mention, and then if there's anybody interested, I wanted to also take this time to mention that where I'm at TOCC is it has its opportunities as well, if it's for education and or things like the agriculture internship. If you are interested in working in agriculture and wanted to go back to school or go to school, TOCC is that spot, and agriculture is definitely there. So there's positions open, take advantage, stay safe, take care, and much love. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Gabe. Thank you so much for being our featured speaker. I don't know if you could see the comments in the chat box, but Rebecca has shared that your story is inspiring. And then Flora said, miss being in the field with you, Gabe, always appreciate hearing you speak. And we do. It's really, I guess, kind of, to me, when I'm listening to everybody, it's kind of bittersweet, because, you know, we're used to sitting around and talking with each other, and to do it virtually, it feels good, but also missing our physical presence. And we, you know, today is the day to give each other recognition. I think a lot of times we don't do that, to recognize each other for how far we've come in life. Our foods have brought us together in that way, from all the different paths we were on to come to bring us to this sense of purpose, and we're all doing it in different ways. And so that's you know, one of the main things that we would like to do today, and our purpose in bringing everybody together is to talk together and to listen and to share our stories. When I was teaching, I would always tell our students, you know, never let anybody tell you that your story's not worth telling, because there's a lot of things that we can learn from each other. So thank you, Gabe. Always appreciate your story, and the way that you tell your story is very unique. So we were joking earlier about giving him the time, and we we're saying 4 days and 4 nights. So thank you, Gabe.
That's all I need. Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah, thank you all. Again, thank you. I totally appreciate it. And you definitely all have given me the opportunity to restore some great feelings and memory, just to be able to look back and on a lot of those great times and a lot of those challenging times. I want to share one more thing, and that was basically because I was told this when I first got into agriculture in one of the many meetings by a gentleman, an older gentleman, who asked the group who was new to the apprenticeship if farming is really what we want to do. And we kind of all looked at each other and we said, yeah, this is what we want to do. And he said, okay, well, I know that, you're going to have to give up your holidays. You're going to have to give up the birthdays. You're going to have to give up the time with family, because the food and plants won't wait, and they'll always need to be attended to. And I can say that we've spent long days in Papago on holidays and come home to our families in the evening when everybody's nice and full. And it was still a great feeling all the way around, being able to just, again, contribute to the bigger plan of being able to just put food on tables and keep these seeds alive. It's huge, and I still believe that's what I want to be as a farmer. So yeah, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. So and Raymond say he loves you. Okay. Again,
Awesome.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for
Love
being
you,
here
Raymond.
with us. We just finished with our t-oidag our new farmers, talking with Mr. Gabe Mendoza, and thank him again for his time. And we're going to move on to our next part of the agenda, which is the Wamyag, again, featuring a panel of young farmers and their experience, and they all come from different walks of life. And I'm glad that you mentioned the nutrition part, because the young woman who's joining us, Deandra Porter, she's definitely, the food has taken her into that area in her education. So we're excited to hear from her and her experience. I like to say that the people who worked with Clifford, who have been under his wing and his apprenticeship, that you're all ninjas. You're all ninjas, because Clifford's really dedicated and has, I know, instilled a lot of discipline in you all. And so it's always an honor to hear how you've taken all of those teachings and where it's taken you in your life. So for the panel, we have Miss Deandra Porter, and we also have Kyle Snowball, who is joining us by phone. So you're not going to be able to see him, but you'll be able to hear him. And then we were supposed to have Mr. Gilbert Villegas Jr. He wasn't able to make it. And so I want to thank Sterling Johnson for joining us. Sterling also has a multitude of knowledge and is doing a lot of important work with Ajo CSA. So thank you, Sterling, for joining us on the fly and being here with us. I appreciate you. So I'm going to turn it over to the panelists, and basically this is the time for them to share their story as young farmers. What was that experience like? Where did you start? What was it that like lit your fire to do this work, and where has it taken you and where you're at now? I'm going to ask Dee to start us off. So I'll have Dee, and then Kyle, and then Sterling. And you each have about 10 to 15 minutes, and that should allow us time for some questions, if any. And Gabe, be sure to check out the chat box. You have some more comments in there. And thank you everybody for sharing your comments, and continue to do that. It's always good to see. So thank you, Sapo, and I'll turn it over to Dee.
Hello, everyone. Skixiatic, good morning. Like Amy said, my name is Deandra, or you can call me Dee for short. And I am, I've been a young farmer in the past couple of years. I went to TOCC for my AA in life science, and I was fortunate to do an internship with Clifford Pablo, who is one of our well-known farmers, an elder in the community. So I was very fortunate to learn a lot from Clifford and the interns that were with him. I am currently a student at the U of A. I study nutrition and food systems. And I also work at a plant nursery. So I work at Mesquite Valley Growers Nursery. So if you hear any kind of disruptions in the background, I apologize for that. I'm at work right now. So I guess to start it off, the main thing that got me interested in food and cultural traditions relating to food was toka. As a high school, when I was in high school, I got into the youth internship with On Autumn Community Action, and the youth program was Young Autumns United Through Health, and that's what really planted the seed to start learning more about our culture and just identity in general, and then learning about the On Autumn tradition. So toka really sparked that interest in me. I was introduced to a lot of the traditional foods, which I rarely knew any of. The only thing that I thought was traditional was pinto beans, but that was not as far back as Tepary beans and chorim, the choil buds, and just the natural foods that grow in our region. So being involved with toka and the youth program helped me understand more of the culture. And then getting into college at On Autumn Community College, I was interested in a lot of the science fields. So one of the science instructors brought to my attention the agriculture program, which was the best thing that's ever happened, because like I said, I was introduced to Clifford Pablo, and that's where it all just kind of started rolling through more. And I realized that is my path. That's the path that I wanted to go into, especially just noticing certain disparities within the nation that we have, whether it's within ourselves or within our family members, regarding health and various diseases that we face on the nation. So I started putting the two and two together. Like Gabe mentioned, a lot of the food that is surrounding the nation is processed foods. A lot of it isn't local. In the past, we've had numerous fields, numerous farmers, and then some history came in and just altered a lot of our culture. So that has been a big goal and focus, is to try and get lifestyles into a more healthy manner. And farming with Clifford, we did various things from small scale to large scale. So we did a lot of small scale gardening, which was, we had 2 plots at TUCC. I apologize for the rustling around. So I learned how to do a little bit of the smaller scale stuff. And then we did help a lot of the larger farms, like Sanavir Co-op Farm, where we helped them. And some other outer communities that had larger farms, and we did a lot of community outreach, so help people get involved and implement more small gardens within the schools, and just trying to do the whole farming and traditional harvesting, learning how to make good soil through composting, just various steps on how to start farming or how to start planting in general, and then the little details that come with it, about soil, water, and what type of plants to plant in the right season. I do have some pictures that I wanted to show. I don't know when we're able to start those. Yeah, okay, thanks, Chris. So these are just a few pictures of some of the projects that I did with Clifford Pablo. This plot that you see right here is of our bao. So this is our baby bao. And we direct seeded a lot of the beans. We did seedlings in a little hoop house that we had made. So it was kind of a mix on what was better to direct seed in the ground and then what was better to start as seedlings. So we direct seeded a lot of our beans. This is the bao, and then the next picture, go to the next picture, Chris. This is when it was done and ready to get rolled up, which I thought was a very interesting method. I didn't know exactly how we were going to harvest the bao because it's beans and you can't just go and, I guess you could pluck every little pod on there, but Clifford had a method to chop up the beans once they're ready to be harvested and just roll the whole crop. So we rolled it up into like a tarp. And next picture, please. This is how we were able to clean the bao. So this is the toto bao, the white tepary bean. And the method that we used was, I don't know if there's a specific name to call this method, but we used the fan here and kind of like crushed up the pods because they were dry and let the wind blow off the chaff of the pod. And that's how we were able to get our bao out of the pods. This is a Clifford Pablo with the camouflage hat, and then next to him is Duran Andrews, who is one of the greatest interns that I worked with as well. And he is now at, yes, winnowing. Thank you. They're winnowing right here. And Duran is working at Santa Fe Co-op now. So he's still in line in the area of farming. Next page or next picture. This is just another close-up of their hardworking hands, taking out the beans. The next one. And then this is just a cute heart that I made out of our beans, the cowpeas, and what is this? Oh my gosh, I forgot what the middle bean was. Some type of lima bean, a red one, I believe. I can't remember the name. And just like math, if you don't use a lot of details, like if you're not farming or planting certain things, you kind of start to lose it. So Usmun is the cowpeas. And then the middle one, if anybody knows, can chime in. And then the toto bao. So this was just an idea that we had, an idea that we put together. We had a couple farmers markets at the Thanatham Community College, and I thought this was a good idea to put on the flyer. And these are the beans that we've grown. We have a little seed bank. Clifford and his interns have a little seed bank at the college. And the next picture, please. This is a method that we use. We did a lot of composting and composting projects, which was my favorite. And this is just basically they're sifting out the good part of the compost that's ready. So the compost is a whole method and a whole area to get into and learn about, and it's very useful to learn how to utilize your kitchen scraps and recycle them, reuse, recycle, and reduce, and you make some great soil out of composting. So I encourage you guys to learn more about that and start implementing that on your own. So yeah, they're sifting out the good compost right here. The rest of it that isn't ready doesn't go to waste. We throw that back into the other compost pile that's still cooking. Next picture. Yes, we worked a lot with the kitchen vendors that were at the college, and we had them collect various kitchen scraps, and we were able to collect those, and they are the main ones that fed our piles. And this is just one of the piles. So just to have an idea of things that can degrade and are very nutritious for your garden. So if you can make your own soil, our soil isn't the greatest out here, so you would rather make it than purchase it. It does take, it can take a while, but patience is a virtue and it's cheap. So I think that's the last picture I have. And I think I kind of went over time. So that's all I have for now until questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you for sharing those beautiful pictures. I like your e-bei. That's awesome. I would like down this shirt actually. Okay, and Nacho say you took all his compost back in the day. Hi, Nacho. Okay, we're gonna move on to our next panelist, Kyle. Kyle, are you ready?
Hello?
All
You
right.
guys hear me?
Turn it over to you, Kyle. Introduce yourself and share with us.
Okay, my name is Kyle Snowball. My mother is Margaret Snowball, and my father is Calvin Snowball. And I'm half Stonoran and half Hotep from Wisconsin, Black River Falls, Wisconsin. And it's been like going on 2 years now since I've been with the Nolan and there's Nina and Sterling. It's been tough with this COVID thing, but I try not to let it bother me. And kind of barely getting into all this, the planting and everything. The bow, I didn't even know we had bow. I didn't even know we planted it a long time ago. It really gave me a real interest in it. Not only that, but all the other plants too, like the organic plants and all that. One time I was on Facebook and Jesse had put up a post. Just they're hiring for college. And I had called him, and I didn't even know it was, I used to go to school with him. He was my classmate. And I didn't even know it was him. And it was pretty cool because he let me know like what they all do in college and all, like the planting and all that. And that was my first time. It was pretty cool because I didn't know I was gonna be a farmer. I was just looking for a job, and it's kind of ironic too because the first job my dad had was a farmer, and he said he was driving a tractor at 8 years old. So that's pretty cool. I guess it runs in the family. Yeah. So I had a lot of experience these past 2 years with Nolan and these Sterling and Nina. and it's kind of, what do you call it, like how do I say this, like kind of like a stress reliever for me, because I grew up in an alcoholic family, and it still runs in the family, but I'm trying to change it. I'm trying to change the generation. I'm trying to change the generation because these plants, they'll heal you. They cure cancer. They cure diabetes. They cure all kinds of bad stuff that we don't need in our bodies, and it's pretty cool. I never used to eat like vegetables and like all that, but now that I look at it and everything, it's like basically like a lifesaver, you know. It'll heal you. It'll keep you healthy and extend your life, basically. So it's pretty cool. Like I kind of stick with it, you know. Like after I'm done with this apprenticeship, I kind of stick with it. It's something that I want to do, make a living off of it. And not only that, but help a lot of people on the way. And it makes me feel good, like to keep them healthy, keep people healthy, basically saving lives, preventing diabetes, cancer, all that. Yeah, it's pretty cool because it's kind of emotional for me because my mom, she had breast cancer and she lost the breast. So that's what pushed me more to do this. And I'm trying to I started my garden like about a year and a half ago. And it was kind of late in the season when I planted squash and planted squash and melon. Me and Jesse had done some seedlings, and we had like a bunch of seedlings that we didn't know what to do with. We just had all the seedlings, so Nolan said, "Go ahead, take some of them and plant them over there." So I planted them here at my mom's house in Shells, and they came out. I mean, everything was thriving, but I think it was just too late in the season. They were coming out and everything, but the pigs, that's where I live. It's like there's like three mountains, like 3 hills in the back and the side. Now the pigs come down. We have a water leak in the back, the faucet, so they always come over, and the horses come over, and they went and there was a part in my fence where they got through, and then they just ate all that stuff like in one night. It's probably like I'll say about a quarter acre that I had those squash and the melons, and the pigs just came in here and ate them. Not only that, but the birds too, and I think the rabbits. So now, yesterday when we were on the meeting, I was fixing the fence, like a little spot where I have the ceiling, because last night those pigs came over. There was a bunch of them, and I think they smelled the water and the plants. So I decided to make a little garden inside the garden, just to keep the pigs out, because they're really trying to get in here in the garden. I didn't really have it fixed up where the ceilings are, so I think they smelled it. And the dogs were all barking, trying to fight them. So I came out and Yeah, sure enough, they're over here trying to get the seedling. But yeah, everything that I'm doing now is like to release all my stress and everything, and knowing that I'm helping people. Hopefully they'll come out right, and I mean they'll produce and all that. I'll probably just give them away. I probably won't even sell them. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm just learning everything. It's better than been on 2 years now, so there's a lot to learn. I'll be like 90 years old and I'll still be learning about this plant. Yeah, but all these bees, I don't know if you guys can hear them, but there's a big old mesquite tree right here. And yesterday evening they were over there in the ceilings, and I think they're trying to pollinate them, or I think that's what they're trying to do. But they weren't eating them; they were just on them. So hopefully they help them to grow. Yeah, so it's been a good experience. Yeah, my mom too, she's surprised that they came out, all the seedlings, because we were watering them for like probably about a week and a half, and then they were coming out, nothing was coming out, and then all of a sudden, damn, they just all came out all at once. So it's pretty cool. She every day she comes over and she sings to the plant. And I think that's what helped them come out. Because they're alive. They have spirits just like us, and it feels good to have somebody sing to you, you know. Yeah, so it's pretty. It's something else, you know. It's like it's a life-changing experience. Not gonna happen overnight, but might not happen in 10 years, but sure enough, it'll happen. You just got to keep at it. And then this morning, I was picking some chardon. Got like a whole bowl full of chardon. They're all coming out over here where I live. There's nothing but like a bunch of toilet buds everywhere. I'll say there's more toilet buds than anything else around here. So I probably need some help if anybody wants to come over and help me. We have like tons of chardon on this side. It's like a bunch. And I hear if you don't pick them, they won't come back. So we got to keep that alive. I think that's why other people are trying to figure out how we survived in the desert for so long and lived so long. That chardon is like basically all we need, because it has everything in there. It has everything in there that we need to survive. It has water. You can eat it raw and it'll give you H2O. Living in the desert, that's what we need. So yeah, it's something else. Just basically changed my life, like for the good and for the better. Yeah, but it's good to have a lot of support, and I want to thank Sterling and Nina and Nolan and my coworkers, everybody. We're all in this together to change the health benefits for everybody. If you're willing to eat good like that and everything, you'll live a lot longer than just to eat regular food. So it's something else. It's like if we were to eat this stardom, it'll get rid of diabetes, get rid of cancer. The stardom's everywhere too. It's probably enough for the whole United States. the whole desert over here. They're barely finding it out what it does and what's it about. So it's a real good experience. I'm gonna stick with it for life. That's my life goal. Stick with it. So yeah, that's about it.
Chapo, Kyle, thank you so much. I'm over here crying.
Yeah, it's real emotional because like I said, my mom. Yeah,
Thank you for your words and being so sincere. And I'm sorry.
let it up. Let it out.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of important topics around our food. Thank you. My niece brought me some tissue. You brought up a lot of important topics, talking about how our foods have literally saved our lives, whether it's from sicknesses or addictions or just the struggles that we go through. And
Yeah.
I felt this is why it's so important for us to talk together, and especially missing that. And thank you for talking about your mom as well. Kyle's mom is a longtime culture teacher in our community, and so it was really beautiful to think about her singing to your plants, and just to just imagine everything that you were talking about. And we really appreciate everything that you shared. And I know you can't see them, so I just wanted to share that somebody said, "Thanks for sharing, Kyle. Beautiful words, singing to the plants, and the healing and stress relief plants lovingly provide for humans if we're patient."
Yep.
And someone else said, "Thank you, Mr. Snowball, for bringing that up. Plants is medicine. Healing is always possible. I know this is what kept our autumn people in good health. There is more to say on this. So much more
Yeah.
to say. But I thank you for bringing all of those things up. And if you can just stick with us, the time for the end of the panel is 11:15. So we're going to move on to our next speaker, which is Sterling Johnson. And again, thank you, Kyle. And we'll come back at the end for any questions from everyone who's here today. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
All right, Sterling, you have the mic.
Alrighty. You hear me? Alrighty. Hello everybody. Anijig Sterling Johnson. Which oida. Say change for rancho. Hello everybody. My name is Sterling Johnson. I always like saying I'm born and raised on the reservation because I know not too many people can say that nowadays. My birth certificate says was born in Cells IHS Hospital, and that to me it's like just to hear that, to see that, and to know that it's always this is always my home, um, and where I come from, I grew up just out of Cells, just like Snowball, not far from Cells. I grew up out there, so we're originally homesteaded and St. James Ranch, which is about less than 2 miles south of Cells on the Indian Route 19, heading on its way to the what used to be the intermediate school, but it's the Barbecue High School now. And then after moving, after growing up there for a few years, we had my sister. and my parents didn't weren't able to um, take care of us and watch over us like they used to. So we moved down to what is called t-oidag or Newfields. There I met my great grandmother. That has always been a big part of my life. I um, if I um, and I think about I think about her sometimes, especially when I make chumot. She was world famous for making chumot, or for some of you guys don't speak out them tortillas, and everybody would come. I'd see people from Hikwan, or people from Santa Rosa, or people from all over just coming to get her chumot. And growing up, uh, we still have the ranch. It's still active to this day. My father is still there. And I grew up in the ranching family. When ranching, if we weren't ranching, um, and we rodeo. I still compete in rodeos. My event I do is bull riding and wild horse race. So that's how I grew up. Doing that, training horses, working cattle, and how I stumbled on the farming through Toca was Anthony Francisco. Uh, he would come by the ranch, or we'll see him every so often, um, and he would tell me, "Oh yeah, I should apply." And during that time, I wasn't thinking about it. Uh, I just was coming off a big win during that time in 2011. 2011. What was the last Autumn Tosh Rodeo I was competing. I was sitting first the first day, and got pushed. Then and by President's Day, I got pushed down to third place, and during that time, that was my biggest win. And after that, I went to a couple more bull ridings in there around the nation. And then for doing this for so long, it just my body would start to hurt. And things weren't healing as much as they were. So I decided to say, okay, no, I'm gonna go ahead and take care of myself. I watched so many of my relatives and friends who have been doing this for a long time, have pains and aches that it just they're not as what they used to be. And I said, well, I told myself, well, I'll find a better way to take care of myself, and to pass this on to the next one. So with that, during that time, about in March, I saw Anthony. He said, "Oh, you should apply." And then I said, "Well, sure. I mean, it's going to be money for a year." No, that was always my thing. Was up. If I can't rodeo and pay my bills, because that was my livelihood, I'll get a job and um, work a job. And during that time, um, okay, I got on and didn't think much of it. I thought farming was just easy, and there was not much to it. And um, training the horses a lot. It's like no, no, it's like training a person, but that person can't talk to you straight to you. You have to really, with horses, you really have to hone in and look at them and figure out what's going to happen, what what they're thinking, how you make them feel, and getting to know them and communicate. But you have to communicate with with commands, and communicate with what you feel, and that was one of the things that I was used to. So to actually get into farming, and do this kind of work, it really was, it was really different. And um, for some of us, we for some of us that come from the same school, the only way we saw farming was through Wish and Mike Wan's FFA program. But if you didn't work there during the summer, you didn't get to plant, so you never really got to experience that unless you had a summer job there. So I never so that when I 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, me, Gabe, Mendoza, Junior, Vegas, Jesse Garcia, and Vernell Sam, we all started together, and um, I think Vernell had more experience over us than all of us, and to actually see this, to see a field, and actually to see what goes into it, that was something that opened my eyes, especially because growing up around culture, you only know so much if you don't go out and learn from others, or people aren't willing to share. It you can't expand, and sometimes we get comfortable not expanding, that we don't get um to to gain more. And um during that time, where Toka started hiring the apprenticeship program to train, it became unique, and it became something that, you know, in a way, it becomes our livelihood, or culture, culturally, significant. And that's one of the things that I'm always grateful for with Taro and Nolan. Nolan, pushing to to plant, and the guys, the crew, pushing to get it done, and Taro, bringing people in so that we can learn, and and learning from Mikey Enos and Amy Wan, for sharing what they learned from culture, and the stories and the songs. I'm always grateful, because it's some for people that get to work with them, they get to hear it, but for some of us we don't. um, and now, just to hear that portion and to grow, and how it ties into the legends and the stories of of the Auckland people, and then how far Bao is going, how far, especially after um, after Toka, Nina Savage and myself came out to Aho, where Nina had started Aho CSA, um, learning how to grow, um, and to expand on my the farming that I learned from um, um, that I learned with Toka, and learned with through our experience, and then adding more stuff, being able to grow non-traditional stuff, but always still growing traditional foods, and growing it in a modern, in the beginnings of our CSA, growing it in a modern way, with drip irrigation, with the hose, whatever we had, um, and finding it growing and growing, and then over the years, bringing people together, people that have academic backgrounds, who are always explaining that that the seeds, especially bao. The first time I planted back in 2011 was the bao, was the white beans. Was the white beans, and the brown beans, and then weeding the fields, and going to the hot summer. And then after the hot summer is going, you thought, okay, we're gonna be in the cool area, cool times, and we're gonna be okay to keep going because it's not gonna be as hot. And then the next thing you know, we're harvesting at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning with the tractor, hoping that we don't break the pods when we harvest with the machine, and then doing that all day, cutting till it got too hot, using the bean cutter, and then that whole process. Then after that, using the machine and winnowing by hand, and knowing that thousands of years ago people used to do this, and then taking that knowledge and bringing it here to Ajo, especially because Ajo may not be on the reservation, but Ajo has an O'odham community, and they're they're not that fortunate to have that access to cultural knowledge, because but being able to provide that to them, and then now bringing the food here, food from Sanivir Farms this week, we were able to sort beans and learn what Sanivir's been doing, and with the work that they're doing, picking, selecting beans, and getting ready and experimenting, and wanting to grow and expand on the bao with different varieties. And we're glad that we're able to be a part of it for a little bit, and I look forward to them growing these different varieties and introducing more bao. And that was the work that we did here, and that we do here in Ajo as well as Toca, is to expand on the and to make this available to everyone that they wanted to learn about traditional foods and about bao in general, or the hun, or the ha. There was things that they could become knowledgeable, and especially doing what we do is adopt the Sonora Desert Crop Program, which is now bao is one of both the brown and white, are one of the featured seeds, along with the corn and the squash, and along with other varieties, and fruit trees, different kinds of fruit trees that are available for people to actually go out and plant on their own. Whether it's a small garden, or whether it's someone revamping a traditional field, like Pancho Farm, or what was Toca Farm, or Colic Farm. And that there, we learning how to grow in an intentional way and in a traditional way, and having those memories with everyone, with the interns, with Amy, with Mikey, Gabe, and the guys, having that learning firsthand, and then actually going out and sharing with others, and making that available, and pushing forward in our own ways, especially about doing. We're able here in Ajo, we're able to grow a farmers market to about 100 vendors, and then take those 100 vendors and put them into a brick and mortar location where we have bao is one of the foods that we use a lot on our menu, and it's farm to table comfort food, things that people are that people who are don't know about bao get to have bao, Because sometimes a lot of people, especially non-native, grow these, either grow or they buy these foods and don't know how to cook them. And then so when they don't know how to cook them, they says, well, these foods don't work, and wanting to change that narrative, and to have a place and to show that now these foods are good, and then wanting to, uh, with different grants, able to, start thinking about, and of course with the pandemic, but we're on the verge of, bringing a farmers market, to sales, to provide, uh, economic opportunity for, often growers, often farmers, to give, to sell their goods to the nation, and just wanting to, and offer those, tastings of the foods, and people that, to this day, this younger generation don't get to have Tepary beans. I didn't have Tepary beans. Probably the only time I had a Tepary bean was a distant relative that passed away, and and it probably came from Toco, or it came from Santa Vera, and them remembering having that food, but not being able to pass that on for the next generation, and all these people that I got to work with now, um, work with or work for, we're being able to pass this down for the next generation. Each and every one of us get to share and provide these things for the kids, and for the future. And what does that look like for us, and for us now? I'm no, but I'm grateful that Amy was let me come in here at the last minute and share with you guys about, my story and where I came from with the bao and traditional foods, and then being able to expand and grow, and to have a place where people can have bao on the regular, and then wanting, and looking forward to the future to be on the nation, and to expand, people's minds, and to have these things available, for the people, because it's theirs, and it's ours, and it was ours to, that we share with, non-natives, but, and you know and I know why we share it, because at some point people do lose, people do, go off, and sometimes they lose their way, or sometimes they go off to get educated, and they kind of leave this culture behind, this way of life behind, for a while, and then coming back, or some of them grew up in the city, and are coming back to the reservation, you know, now, and welcoming everyone from all walks of life to, to learn and to grow and to be strong and to be resilient, like the bow, because those things can grow in the heat of the summer, especially being in Papco farms. When it was 115, those bow were still growing. Um, and I remember we didn't water for like almost a month and a half, and they were still there. And and for us, we're still here, and as long as we use, these new ways to become stronger, just like the bow. No, they takes no. If you go into the science, the bow takes the genetics of the environment and makes itself, stronger, and produces. And then if we take those seeds from that year when it was the toughest, and you put it into the next year, those seeds become stronger, are stronger because of the hardships that they go through. And for us, that's, I'm grateful that, we're all together, and we're all doing our own thing, and in different ways, which is always good, because especially wanting to have our seats back. Some the seats need to be immersed in the areas that they're, where they grow, and if they survive, they're able to grow there, for for years or decades to come, and to be strong. So, thank you guys for letting me be here, and thank you. Um, and I'm glad to be here, and thank you.
Tapo Sterling, thank you for joining us on a short notice, but I think it was meant to be, with all of the good words that you shared, and bringing up a lot of good memories as well. Papago Farms is significant to me because I feel like that was where I learned like true hard work ethic, and to work as a team, to be out there as hot as it was all day, taking care of bao, harvesting the hod. I remember one afternoon we were out there, I feel like I almost died. I don't remember how hot it was, but I almost blacked out. And after that, I was like, the heat was nothing. So I felt like I had to, my body, had to get used to that and to acclimate to that kind of work. And it really taught me a lot. And it's still something that's with me today. So thank you to Dee and Kyle and Sterling for sharing your stories. They're all really inspiring and just gives us a lot of strength and a lot of hope, especially as or young farmers, or we, like Kyle mentioned, he's like, I'll probably be 90 or 80 and still learning. And I think, we've heard that too from our elders. Sometimes they say, I don't know nothing, but yet they know a lot. But it's just being really humble and, knowing that we're always learning. And so we wanted to take these last 15 minutes to have a question and answer session. So for our listeners and participants, if you have any questions for any of the panelists, please feel free to ask. You can put them in the chat box, and then I'll share them with the panelists, especially for Kyle, because he's on the phone with us, so you can't really see the questions that come through. Let's see. Just some comments coming in. Thank you all for sharing. Keep up the awesome work. Thanks everyone for sharing your stories and knowledge. Good one from Breeze up in Salt River. So we have our Hajjan joining us today. I know there's a couple of our Hajjan from Ankakimudatam, Akimudatam, Danatam, and all over the world, and in other indigenous communities. Let's see. So Rebecca, who's in California, she said, can I be adopted by the Danatam community? Yes, you can come pick choya buds with Kyle. That's how we'll get you started. But really, when we invite people out to our community, really it's around times when we're doing these things so that people can, get a good understanding of who we are and how we live on the land. Because especially coming up in the summertime, a lot of times, that's for people in Arizona to stay inside and to not be outside. But most, from my experience, it's a time when Atam are outside and we're working and we're doing a lot of work, especially when we're planting and harvesting. June, Hashanbak Masha, the Saguaro ripening moon, is our new year. And so that's coming up for us soon. Let's see. We have a question from Chris. He says, how do we encourage more youth to grow and eat bao? And that is a question for everyone. So your thoughts on that? How do we encourage more youth to grow and eat tepary beans? And that's for anyone who wants to answer.
I guess for me, it's just, having it. If you want people to, especially kids, with our chef, we found that it's very She does things very unique. That would make other options question whether to eat it or not. But like our chef, she does like a bao of ice cream, and it's really good. And actually, Snowball and Junior and Jesse all got to have some, um, and it was very unique. That's one thing, and um, there were so many things that she did over the last couple of years. Now she's our head cook and manager for the cafe here in Ajo, and just in a way, the classic stews. Just having it in your. I guess in a way, I'm trying to say is more if you have it in your diet, you know, and if you have a family or you're working with kids, the more you're doing it, the more somebody else will follow, and especially now, like when you get older, you get so used to having things a certain way, and sometimes we get set on certain ways, especially, and I'm talking about processed food. So if you have like Cheetos and nachos, or um, and you're eating that, your taste buds don't recognize it's food, and it also makes you hungry, you want more. Versus natural or organic or certified naturally grown food, it fills you, and you're tasting the food in a different way. So um, to me, that's one way. It's just you know follow suit. No, eat it and eat it yourself, and then have it in your daily routine. And there's more than one way to cook bao. That's one thing that I've learned being here in Ajo. There's more than one way.
I know your partner Nina, she makes brownies out of the red bao, right? The swig bao.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. I couldn't even tell when I had tasted them. They were really good. You couldn't even tell that they were made from beans, from bao. And someone said, or yum, ice cream from Tepary. And okay, we do have a couple of questions. One is, how much space do you need to grow beans? This is for somebody in Phoenix. From somebody in Phoenix.
Well, I guess from my experience doing it with Clifford in the garden, so we had a whole plot. It was like 100 by 50 feet, and we direct seeded the seeds. So they were probably about 6 inches apart. I guess it's just a matter of how much you want to get out of your harvest. That's also a question I have for myself too, because that's the only time I've ever planted the Tepary beans was in a field with Clifford, and I live in the city in an apartment, and I've been contemplating on trying it in a pot just to see what I can get out of that, because a lot of the planting I do are in containers. So if anybody else can chime in on that, that's what I have.
Somebody did ask that question, if you can grow bao in a pot.
Yeah, I would think you could grow almost anything in a pot. I would just try it. You probably won't get too much out of the harvest, but you can always try it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do a pot. Actually, what we did was a raised bed. Uh, we're just off the reservation. When we work, most of our apprentices come from the nation, so um, and South is considered urban. It's even though it's in the reservation, it's considered urban. So we use aho as a blueprint to teach different ways of growing food, and the soil here is so different, and most of it's rock and caliche, um, and you can depends on how much space you have or how much you want to grow. If it's less than a quarter of an acre, um, you can just make raised beds. I found that I didn't my first experience growing raised beds. I didn't know how that was going to work. I thought, okay, it's going to be too high to the sky, it's going to burn, or it wasn't going to like the soil. And all we did was get compost and sand and 35, 65 mix, and then that's kind of how I divided it up into a 4x4x6 raised bed or 4x4 8 raised bed. Um, and just grew the beans, and they did really well. Actually, the high school here in Ajo actually was it worked so well that and they grew it on a smaller scale. They were able to pick the pods when they were dry. All the pods were coming by because it was smaller. They were able to pick all the pods and then break the pods and save the seeds that way. And you didn't have to do a whole big field. So, but I was like, that was maybe one raised bed. And no, but imagine if you had multiple raised beds, how much more beans would you get out of it? And I think they got uh, close to a pound on a raised bed.
Okay. Thank you, Sterling. And Dee, someone had a question for you. And then the last question that I'll share after Dee, it kind of relates to what you were saying, Sterling, about growing in different spaces. But the question for you, Dee, is how do you hope to incorporate your knowledge of planting and using traditional foods for the field you're going into?
Good question. I continually ask myself this question. I don't have a direct set plan. I have many ideas, and I know that I am in the area that I want to further into. So this is a fairly new program too that the U of A had just started. I think it's the second year in with this program of food systems and nutrition. So basically my whole goal is to go back to the nation and try and create a food system just exactly what Ajo CSA and a lot of the local farmers are aiming to do as well. So I'm trying to get into networking more with people that are already doing things and planning. We're all like kind of on the same page, networking, but definitely I have many ideas and things that I want to do for the nation. Going back into, I guess it would fall into a lot of the food system policies that are in place right now is what I'm learning a lot more about. So just kind of trying to wrap my head around putting the two and two together on the current food system we have right now in the nation and what I'm learning now. But definitely the goal is to incorporate the traditional foods and get more local farmers involved to help create that economic stability on the nation and overall self-sustainability on building healthy lifestyles and skills to learn. So those are my topics that I'm aiming for the nation. It's kind of all jumbled right now, but I'm continually trying to search for the next steps and the plan ahead. So thanks. Good question.
Thank you, Dee. I do appreciate Dee because she does walk her talk. And she's talking about nutrition and living healthy lifestyles. And I always like her posts about her food that she shares on Instagram. You know, like just making it making food look appealing. Her plates are always beautiful, and I know sometimes people say, you know, we eat with our eyes first, and that's so important. And a lot of the work that we've all been doing to encourage our communities to eat more traditional foods is making sure that it's delicious, because that's everybody's first impression. And I guess you can get bao ice cream at the Aho Farmers Market and Cafe. Nina, she shared some links in the chat, so feel free to follow up with Aho CSA, learn more about their work through the links that are provided there. Dee, people are asking for your Insta handle and if they can follow you. Give you a promo there. One last question, and then we're gonna move on to the next part of our agenda. Well, there's a lot of questions that I don't think we're gonna be able to get to just today, but let's see. Janine, she says, it sounds like many of you are reintroduced to your cultural traditions. Are you the exception, or are there many in our communities that are returning to good health through our practices? That's a good point to make, and I was thinking about that as well. But the question that I want to pose to you all, our last question here is anyone familiar with inner city gardens that are autumn run or curated for more traditional crops of our tribes? And that's a question for any of the panelists. Is anyone familiar with gardens in the city or gardens that are run by autumn in other places or are growing traditional foods?
I mean, you have different, there's gardens or farms in, in Phoenix and Tucson that are made at autumn run or autumn owned, but they do have some of the traditional crops as well as other crops. But you have to understand, those urban or city, have tons of people, lots of people, and different backgrounds and different cultures, and what we learned, like Iskashita, Flowers and Bullets, Crazy Chili Pot Farms. Now all these guys are growing native crops, but native crops in urban settings. So there's definitely places to learn, but there's but I mean, I'm sure there's I'm sure, or in the future, someone can do an urban farm in the city for the native people. But for now, that's all I know as far as.
I invite someone did mention Native Health in Phoenix. I have heard about their work, and if anyone knows about any other farms that they like to share, you can also share that in the chat. Okay, a lot of good feedback, and I know once we get started, there's so much to talk about, and again, that's why having a day like today and bringing everyone together is so important, and a reminder of things that are on our mind, what we're working on, and what we like to see. So I'm going to turn this over to my partner in crime, my partner in work, Mr. Chris Honani. I'm going to turn it over to him for a bit as we transition into the next part of our agenda. We're going to have a bao, but really it's a whole meal demo and sharing by my mom, Romelda Miguel. So I'm gonna transition into the kitchen and onto another device. So Chris, you can take it over.
All right, I guess I'll be the host for now. So thank you all to our panelists that we just had the pleasure to hear from. Learning a lot over here. And I'm excited. I'm excited to be able to grow more of the Tepary beans this year and to experiment and to learn new things through trial and error. I think you know, that's one of the best ways to learn. You know, you have to expect to fail at some point, but I think when you do that, you're able to learn where you went wrong and to figure out what you need to do in order to fix that. So in my experiences, I've learned a lot through trial and error. So don't expect to get things right on the first shot, you know, just expect to run into some issues if you're new at gardening or farming, seed saving. You know, we all go through different challenges, and that's what makes us resilient, you know, as people. Like I had said yesterday in my presentation, you know, Tepary beans are a symbol for resiliency. They're one of the most resilient crops that you can find today. And it's important for us to continue to talk about ways of protecting and saving Tepary beans. And so I encourage all of you to plant more of them, encourage your kids, your younger siblings, your youth in your communities to grow more of these Tepary beans and to eat them. It's important for us to eat what we grow, you know, otherwise we're not going to form that relationship to these foods. So, you know, like what we're about to see here pretty soon, you know, the best part of all of this is eating your crop. You know, there's nothing better than eating the food that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into. It tastes 100 times better than anything that you can get in the store. And so, you know, already look at that. You know, I'm really curious right now to learn about how this food was prepared and what kind of nourishment that it can provide for us. A lot of these foods will provide a level of nourishment that you can't achieve through any foods that you can buy in a grocery store. So definitely, you know, take the time to grow your own food wherever you can. I like to say there's no excuse for you not to grow your own food. At least for me, because I live in a 1-bedroom apartment with a little tiny patio, and I'm still able to grow food out of that. And somebody had said in a webinar that I attended recently was that even if you have a windowsill, you know, you have a space to grow food. Might not be a lot, but it's something to get started with. And there are ways of finding community garden spaces if you live in a city or close to a city, to be able to grow your own food in. And so, you know, there are ways, but I wish there were more ways, and I wish there were more areas for us to be able to grow our own foods. I feel like it's a little difficult to get access to land if we don't already have it. And so that's an issue that we want to also address as well. Our right to access lands that were traditionally used by us as indigenous peoples. So it's important to value the land that you live on today and to use it to your fullest ability to be able to produce your own food. So Amy, are we ready yet, or do you want me to keep going?
We're ready.
Okay, all right, I'll pass it back on to you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, all right, we're back, and this time we're in the kitchen, and I'm here with my mom, and I'm gonna turn it over to her to introduce herself and share what we have for you here. we went all out, you know, from yesterday and today talking about food. And I told my mom, I said, I think it'll be good to just like prepare a whole meal, autumn meal, because it's something that we've been talking about. And so we're sitting here with some foods, and I'm gonna turn it over to my mom. And I'm really happy she agreed to be a part of this, you know, talking about people that we don't usually hear from, whether it's our growers or whether it's from within our own families. And it means a lot to me to share with you all what I've learned and who I've learned from. So turn it over to my mom.
Thank you for sharing. I'm to get Ronaldo Miguel, and I'm instruction while give word instruction. I am the youngest sister of my family, and I'm the 7th of 9 children. Growing up, now that I think about it, I'm really, really happy to have grown up in the time that I did. I believe that I was a part of the generation that did everything by hand. So I was able to see a lot of that. I was able to experience a lot of that. I was able to learn it, and now be able to share with my children and my granddaughters. A lot of the earliest memories I have is of my aunts and my uncles and my Bob and my Huri. My Bob and my Huri had a big uksha, which is a ramada that's surrounded by Ocotillo, and it was our summer kitchen. And I remember in the evening time or late afternoon, my Uncle Joe would start up his old blue Chevy truck, and we called it the Blue Angel. And we knew that he was going rabbit hunting. And so me and my cousins would run from all directions and jump in with my uncle so we could go rabbit hunting, because that was our dinner. So we would go rabbit hunting and come back, and my mom and my grandma, my huri and my aunts would be up there. They would already be making jummet or, you know, cooking beans or what have you. And then we would come, and my grandfather and my uncle would, my Bob and my uncle would skin the rabbits, and we would grill them, or my grandma would chop it up and make like a green chili. And so everything that we had back then came from my grandfather. All our meats from my grandfather and my uncles, and then later on my brothers. I don't ever, the only time I ever remember having beef was when my uncle came back, my Bob came back from Roundup. He would go with the cowboys and be the cook, and then he would come home and he would have a side of beef with him. And even that was exciting, because we knew that my huri was gonna chop up the fat and make sisirang, and even with that came a dish of its own. And maybe a few months ago, I was able to share that with my son and Ross and Amy and Chris, where we baked the bone, and it was a huge cow bone, and we baked that, and we took the marrow out and the grease from that marrow. And I remember my huri used to do that for my Bob, and then he would crush the uskokor and onions, and, you know, kind of saute that, and he would have it as a side with his food. So just little things like that I remember. But going back to the meats, you know, we didn't have a lot of beef. We rarely had beef. It was rabbit, it was deer, it was goji that we had, and it was something that I really miss, because it was a family thing. You know, the men would go hunting, and then we would wait for them to come home. And so from that, you know, we were always at that time, we were always told to, you know, to do things. You know, we were always, there was probably about 10 to 15 of us, of cousins, that we knew by the seasons what was coming and what was expected of us, like around this time, just like Kyle. We would go out with my grandmother, and it would have to be a certain time because they would watch, or in the morning if it was windy, we didn't go out because we would get, it, because when you pick cholla buds, you have to be careful of the stickers that are always flying. So if it was breezy in the morning, we wouldn't go out until in the afternoon, or vice versa. And then going back, we would clean the jodim and help my huri either cook it and dry it or just dry it. And so we did a lot of that. We and then after that, it was the spinach, the winter spinach. We would go pick that, and we would pick baskets and baskets of that. And then it would be the weho along 86 by Little Tucson. There were these trees there that were my huri's favorite, and she would send us there with bags, with gunny sacks to go gather the dry weho and bring it back to her. And then she would clean it, and then sit there on her grinding stone and turn it into flour. And she used that to make a pudding, or she would add it in a bread. And so, and then after that, then we knew it was time to get ready to go harvest Dutch. My grandfather would leave with my uncle maybe a month before and start getting things ready for us. With my grandmother and my mothers and my aunt and my cousins. And we would stay out at Saguaro for the whole summer. And then once the monsoons rains came, so we knew it was time to come home because it was time for my Bob to plant. And my Bob didn't use a lot of well water. The way that his garden was set up, it was at the end of the oak, so he did a lot of oak farming. And I remember my grandfather's orchard, and he had pomegranate trees, he had grapes, he had apricots, he had plums, he had lemons and limes, and then on one side where the oak flowed, where he would do the bao, he would do hard, mirdon, corn, he would, cantaloupe, fruity basho, he would do, everything that we have, that we had, and then going through the process of drying those fruits and then saving them for later. So, so that brings us now to what we're going to share with you today. It just brings me back, it takes me back, right now I can just see my huri sitting there throwing, when Deandra was talking about picking the bough and cleaning it. My grandparents would do that. They would both get the canvas on one side and they would throw it, getting the big pieces out. And then my grandfather would put it under the tree where my grandma would sit. And it would always be in a breezy afternoon, and she would sit with her basket and she would throw it until she cleaned it. And then she would put it in a tin and save it and put it away. And
is there an Ottoman word for winnowing, or how we describe?
Nyunch, or you throw it and, and clean it that way. And so we always had food, in the winter time, in the summertime when they would plant the squash and turn it into harshai, and that's what we have here. So, so with the squash, after it grew, and then they would peel it, and then they would start cutting it in a spiral, and this is what it came out to be once it was. And my grandmother would have big
Bundles?
Big bundles, where she was good at that. So she would do the whole squash and bundle it up, and so it would be a huge bundle like this. I remember during the winter time, she would
soak it in hot water and then start, chopping it up. And it depended on how they wanted to eat it. Sometimes it was kind of chunky. And she would use haiwan manjuk, which she got from her sister. And I don't ever remember seeing my grandmother use a store-bought lard or oil. She always used the lard that she got from her sister.
And
so
sisiran is just like dried fat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Chicharrones.
Rendered fat.
Yeah.
Or chicharrones.
Yeah. And so she would, just kind of chop it up chunky. And then or another dish she would make is hard. This right here is kind of spicy. It's probably, you probably would have it with with the meat.
Sorry,
with the meat dish, but you could also make it wet like this and add cinnamon, sugar, and maybe some evaporated milk, depending on during All Souls Day. What we do is with the hard, we cook it with bonaji, which is the Mexican sugar.
raw sugar,
bonaji, and some cinnamon, and we let that steam for a few hours. So you can fix this to your liking if you want to eat it for a dessert, or if you want to eat it with the side dish. And then here on this side, you'll just see that this is usha, or the mesquite sap. And we used to, my grandfather, my Bob, there was a pasture across the road from us, and my grandfather would send us there to look for usha for him. And what he did was, when we brought it back, he would store it, but he would also soak it in water and honey, and he would drink it like a tea. The other thing you see there is the dried Dutch. And when we went to pick Dutch, after we picked the wet, there would also be dry, and we would also pick the dry, and my grandmother would store it to take it back home, and she would use that to either make sitor or jam when she wanted, or she would use it and eat it as candy. That was her candy. And she would sit there and just munch on it. Sometimes she would also use the seeds to feed her birds. For some reason, my grandmother always had cactus wrens at her home, or pigeons.
or doves, morning doves.
Morning doves, yeah. And then she would use that to feed them. Here we have a Jordan. And this is currently, this is what Kyle was talking about. Kyle is currently picking. But this is what it looks like after it's cooked and it's dried. Once you dry it, you can pretty much keep it for a number of years, and then you would just rehydrate it and cook it. And this is what it looks like once you recook. And here I kind of sauteed it with some onions, some fresh onions. And so sometimes I'll throw tomatoes and green chili in there. Or if I want a cool summer salad, I'll add cottage cheese and lettuce and cucumbers and tomatoes, and have that as a summer salad. And but this right here is just fried with or sauteed with onions, and so you can have this as a side dish. This right here, I just wanted to kind of add before we moved on. This
I was
is
like trying to get to the.
This right here, I just kind of wanted to add. These are called huges, and these are what is found. You usually find them along the banks of the washes. I'm not sure what the English name for it is.
Wild rhubarb.
But when we were small, we were always running and playing in the desert, and and sometimes the desert, the dirt, you can get impetigo from the dirt. And so when that happened to us, my grandma would send us to the wash to pick this, and then she would slice it and boil it until it turned a dark red, and then we will bathe in it. And that was the medicine that we used to cure impetigo. I don't ever remember going to the doctor for any kind of medication for impetigo. This is what my grandmother used, my hoodie used. And then so here's our main dish here. So this is the brown bao. As you can see there, there's a big short rib in there.
The biggest short rib ever.
Yeah. I know that yesterday there was a dish, a fairly healthy dish that was prepared with bao. And that's and today, we look to that. We look to healthier ways to enjoy our foods. But I'm old school. I like my grease. And
something hearty.
Yeah, and I remember that at my grandparents' house, there was always big pots of food. There was always big pots of food, and I remember, sometimes the men in the community would come to either share news with my Bob or talk about what was going to be discussed at the village meeting, and so he would come to speak to my Bob and get his thoughts on things. And my Bob would always invite everyone to sit down, and he would say, and so he would say, sit down and have some food and grease your bones. And I think it was probably because they used a lot of the cow fat, from the Sonoran, the Haiwan manjuk. And so, like I said, that was what my grandmother cooked with. And so I just always assumed that's where that came from. But and so this is how they would fix it, with big beef ribs or back then, it was the deer bones, deer meat, or it was the gaji, the pig. And then my grandmother would make, she would make a different kind of chummet for like a stew or for beans or like a gravy dish. If you can see, it's kind of a thicker chummet. And so I was telling Amy, I said, when we were talking about this, and I said, it made me think to make this because I remember when my grandmother used to make it, and you would get your chummet and you would be able to dip and get all of that good juice in there.
I wish you could join us for lunch, everybody.
So you can see that, and
take a bite.
And so it was kind of like a bread, but yet it was chummet. And this, this is one of the best memories that I have of my hood. And I'm glad, I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to be able to see, to be able to learn, and then be able to do and be able to teach. When Amy and her sister were growing up, and we would get together to get ready for All Souls Day, and they thought it was a time to play. And it wasn't. It was a time to come into the kitchen and learn these things. And my mom, she was very stern in us, with us to learn this. She always told us that this is something that we needed to learn, because one day we were going to be responsible to set our tables for All Souls Day. And this is what she wanted. She said she didn't want McDonald's. This is what she wants. So this is my presentation, and I really hope everyone enjoyed it. And I really hope that that you're able to try some of this or learn how to fix it. If anyone has any questions, or if anyone wants to learn how to cook it, let me know. Amy will get you my email address, and I'm always willing to to teach. Thank you. Daihage.
Thank you, Mama. So just another last look, everybody. I'm sorry, this is torture, but we have this meal, and this is what we wanted to share with you. And if we were gathering in person, this is what we would all be eating for this gathering. Good food, sharing good food, and you know, I wanted to bring that element into everybody's home and wherever you're tuning in from, and to, you know, just remind us of what all that hard work brings to us is good food and good meals. And I appreciate my mom, and we have our niece here with us too, Allie, who's listening, and you know, it's all about family. So just one last look, got that mega short rib, and this is just simple, basically browning the short rib, putting in the bao and just letting it cook together. I usually don't put salt or anything in there until afterwards. It seems, I was told that if you put salt in right away, it kind of affects the cooking of the bao, so that it's good to wait until afterwards. So we have our bao and short ribs, simple recipe, but tried and true. And then we have our thick judgment,
Our scope judgment.
scope judgment. And then we have our sauteed jorim, which is what we're harvesting right now, with some onions. Jorim is another superfood. It has, I believe it was a tablespoon of jorim has just as much calcium as an 8-ounce glass of milk. And then we have our hod. And this hod came from last year's harvest with Barbecue High School. I got this from my, just a couple months ago, actually, from my Uncle Mike. And then I processed it, I dried it. And so that's what it looks like dried. And then recooked it. And I forgot what I had made with it. And then we have our dry jorim. This is what it looks like after you cook it, boil it, and dry it. And then our medicines, and there's other medicines too that we use. And then for dessert, we have our jun, our dry baidat, and our ushap, our mesquite sap. And all these things are coming right now. So as soon as it gets hot, the trees start to sweat their sap. And we start to see these amber jewels on the trees, and the same with the baidat, those rubies up on the hashan. And all of this, my family harvested and grew, and even if it's just a little, just enough for our family, we're really thankful that we're able to have it and to share it, because, you know, if we didn't, we wouldn't be able to share all of this with you. Yeah, chuchimit is plural, chuchimit is tortillas. And so oh yeah, it's not some good feedback. You have to, sorry, you have to turn it off until I go on the other. Okay, so just some comments. Some people said, rabbit, oh my goodness, ladies, I'm coming over for lunch. That's from Nina. This all looks so delicious. Thank you for sharing even virtually. Amazing, it looks delicious and nutritious. Thank you for sharing. Ouch, that's a big bone. Looks super good. Someone asked if the judgment was made of corn or maize, and this one isn't. It's flour, lard, and salt, and warm water. And let's see. Rez Uber eats me a plate. Just come down, Breeze. You're always welcome. Lily said, Gagi, see me some. Food that reminds me of home. That was from Nacho.
Oh, Nacho.
No to Mickey D's, yes to traditional Atum foods. Looks amazing. I'd love to learn how to cook. Wonderful stories. Thank you for sharing. And yes, thank you everyone for being here with us, being here with my family and my mom. And like she said, she mentioned our grandma earlier, and she was stern. Every time she entered the room, everybody sat up a little straighter and made sure that we were working hard. And because of them, this is what we know, and this is our way of keeping connected with them too, because they're no longer here. Both of my grandmas, but they loved cooking and providing for people, and so this is how we're able to remember them and just be with them. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mom, for for being on camera and sharing all of your memories, and it makes us want to get back to that, all of us. And so thank you, everybody. We are going to move on to our next part of the agenda, which is the Bao Agita, the story of the Bao, from our friend Mr. Michael Enos. And he wasn't able to be here with us today, but he sent us a video. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris to share that video. And also Mikey's going to be closing us out with that video after the story. But we'll tune back in to say the opening to everybody after this next part. Tapo, thank you.
First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for your opportunity and your willingness to be a part of this great event, learning about traditional foods, especially the bao, the Tepary bean, and being your main focus. So I want first and foremost want to thank you and dedicating your time and dedicating your efforts to learning more about traditional foods, and whatever you're able to share with those around you in your household, your community. I strongly encourage that to take place. Keep learning and keep sharing, and know that we all are somehow connected underneath the passing sun and also the moon. Those two elements that were placed there by our maker, the Natakam, for a reason. At this time, I was asked to share a hogag, a legend, and that does pertain to the Totabao, the white Tepary bean. And so, this they say long ago that there was a young man that was living out in a one particular village, and he, it doesn't say, or it's not told what happened to the boy's parents, and why he ends up living with his grandfather. And the grandfather was an elder man that was very set in his ways and very particular on how he wanted things. And so the young man is at an age, maybe about 7 or 8 years old, where he starts to notice that a lot of his friends or other boys in the same village are starting to learn things from the older males in their life. And the young man, he waits for the time and for the day that his grandfather would also do the same, to teach him how to hunt, to teach him survival skills, and to also just build a relationship with him. But as time moves on, the young man, he realizes that that will not happen. And so he takes it upon himself to go out into out into the wilderness, into the desert, and he starts seeing the relationship building that with the other older men, that they were doing to their nephews, or their grandsons, or their sons. And so the young man, he would look from a distance and would stand there and mimic and imitate what they were doing, and he was recalling all of this information as much as, and retaining as much as information as he could. And so the young man, he decides to go and attempt to get a jackrabbit, or a cottontail rabbit. And so he goes out there and he spends his time making his own bow and arrow that at first maybe wasn't the best, but after some time and some practice, he gets the hang of it. And so he decides to go out, and he sees a rabbit out in the desert, and he aims for it, and he thinks in his mind that he's not gonna get it, he's not gonna be Siabam. He's not going to be lucky at first, but there he goes, and he gets his bow and his arrow, and he stands there and he's looking at that rabbit, and then he lets go, and there goes the arrow, and it does kill the rabbit. But the young man is unaware on what's the next process. What is the next steps that he needs to do, and not knowing that he also was being watched. And there was a group of men that were out there, and they saw this, and they wanted to come and congratulate the young man. They wanted to come and recognize him, but the young man got afraid and he ran away. So he went and ran for quite some time until he finally stopped, and he realized that he was probably going to be in trouble when he returned back to his grandfather's home. So after the sun had gone down, he did return back to his grandfather's home, and the grandfather did get after him. The grandfather scolded him and also physically disciplined him. And the young man was hurt and frustrated, and just did not know what to do. So during the night, as the village went to sleep, the young man pretended to lay there. And the young man laid on the ground inside the home and really thought, what did he need to do? Was this the life that he wanted to live? Was there much more to life? So the young man, being lost in his thoughts for a while, decided that he was going to go and run away. So he gets some things quietly and he leaves his grandfather's house. And he goes and he starts wandering the desert in the night, but led by mixed emotions, not thinking clearly, but thinking fast and going through all these thoughts. Soon the boy came to a mountain, but all the anger and sadness clouded his sense of direction. And so he started to climb this mountain, climbing and climbing, and being emotional as well, I would assume. And so he gets high up in this mountain and it becomes very foggy. And then all of a sudden it hits the young man that he knew that he didn't walk far enough and fast enough for him to come to a mountain, any close mountain range. But he was still driven, with emotions. And soon he comes up and the fog seems to go away. And he looks around and he can see the stars that were seem very close. He looks around and he sees that what was fog is now on the floor or on the ground. So he's trying to think of all this. And he walks around and he comes to a ledge, which he thinks is a ledge there on the mountain. But what he comes to realize is that he found a way to the sky. That now he wasn't on the land, the Jewwood, as we would call it in autumn. He was in the sky. He was above the world. And so he looked down across to the earth and he saw many things. And one of the things that he saw was his grandfather. His grandfather going from village to village, asking around, have you seen my grandson? Have you seen my grandson? And the boy sat there on the ledge. And this happened over many days. That the boy would find a home up there and find materials up with the people and the different things that are in the sky. And he built a little house, all the knowledge that he also remembered from seeing from the different people in his village. And he stayed up there. And so after some time, the young man became sad because he always saw that his grandfather would be looking for him. So the young man, he thinks of a way to come down and deliver a message and a gift to his grandfather. And so during the night, the young man came down from the sky back to his grandfather's home. His grandfather was asleep, and his grandfather became very, um, his physical appearance changed because of worrying, because of stress. The grandfather wasn't eating as much. And so the grandson, he ends up waking up the grandfather. And the grandfather becomes filled with joy because the grandson is now returned. And the grandfather starts to ask the grandson so many questions. But in the end, the grandfather acknowledges his faults. He acknowledges the wrongdoing that he did. And the grandfather asks the grandson, "Are you here to stay? Are you here to stay with me once again?" And the grandson replied, "I'm not here. I'm not going to stay. I found a home in the sky, and that's where I will live. But I will give you a gift, and I want you to take care of it. I'm going to give you these seeds, and I want you to place those seeds by where you lay your head at night. Take care of it, water it, and we'll make sure that nothing damages it, nothing eats it, protect it. And when it is time to harvest, save it and let it multiply. Over time, you will have so much that you will be able to harvest some, place it in a willow basket, winnow it, and cook it and be full and think of me to regain strength. But also save some for seed, for that will continue to grow and always be you with much of the seed, you will be able to be full and find energy and also think of me." That gift was the tohtaba, the white Tepary bean from the boy. And he also, before he went back to live in the sky, the young man took the grandfather outside and pointed up. And he said, "That is where I live." And he called it Tomaki, Tomaki. And that's what he pointed to, what we know today as the Milky Way constellation, or the streak of stars in the sky at night. Tomaki is a powerful and significant constellation to all of them, and I'm sure to all indigenous people. It is to place there also as a marker of of the night, meaning when certain things would take place for ceremony, for a series of songs, and for many other things that many other tribes, I'm sure, have in common with that constellation, the Milky Way constellation in the sky. There were other stories that deal with the Tomak, the Milky Way constellation, but I want to focus just on this and to say that everything was given to us for a reason. Different tribes, different clans, different regions of the world to take care of. Some of us are united in our food. Some of us are yet to be reunited or united through the teachings of our food, our cooking, our stories, our language. But most of all, we are already connected through our willingness to share, willingness to give of our time. And I strongly encourage that to continue to grow. I also want to take the time to just thank each and every one of you for what you have already done to get to this point in your life, to hear this message, to hear the story, and just to be around. Even though the world is in a different place, we know that with the teachings of our hukyoikam, our ancestors, that we will endure, adapt, and continue to move on, just like those before us, those now, and those behind us. So to end, I want to sing a song, a traditional autumn song for all of you. It is not a very old song. It is a fairly new song. It is a song of my own making, and it is about the Thalmak, the Milky Way constellation. The Thalmak has a very unique connection to my life, and at this point in my life, I have been honored to have many God children, and I may not get to see them all the time. But one of the things that I try to express to them is that when they look up at night and they see that constellation of Thalmak, that they feel a connection to me wherever they are. But I want to also use that as an example that each and every one of us, wherever we may be in the world, we live underneath the Tash, the sun, the Mashat, the moon, and all the other elements, but also the Thalmak, the constellation in the sky, the Milky Way constellation in the sky. And maybe it has it does have several names. But I want to say to you, is wherever you may be and you are able to look up in the sky and look at the constellation Thalmak, that you feel good and not feel alone, feel united by the stories, by the different things you've heard to better your life and those around you. So this song simply says that the desert Milky Way or the Thalmak moves above the land. It is good that I see it high up in the sky as the light from the stars or the Totobao, the white Tepary beans in the sky, move across high in the sky. So this is a song that I've made for my godchildren, and a song that I offer to each and every one of you. And I hope that this finds you well, good and strong, your community, your friends and family. Tono tomag, tono tomag, anyay chuwatam. Sapo anyay chuwad. Tono tomag, tono rig uktam hima. Tono tomag, tono tomag, anyay chuwatam. Sapo anyay tomag, tono rig uktam hima. Tono tomag, anyay chuwatam. Sapo anyay chuwad. Tono tomag, tono rig uktam hima. Tono tomag, anyay chuwatam. Sapo anyay chuwad. Tono tomag, tono rig uktam hima. Tono tomag, tono tomag, anyay chuwatam. Sapo anyay chuwad. Tono tomag, tono rig uktam hima. Tono tomag, tono tomag, anyay chuwatam. Sapo anyay chuwad. Tono tomag, tono rig uktam hima. Tono tomag, anyay chuwatam. Sapo anyay chuwad. Tono tomag tonorig ugtam hima. Tono tomag anyay chuwatam. Sapo anyay chuwat. Tono tomag tonorig ugtam hima. Like, well, good blessings to each and every one of you. Anyan Hapjigik, Michael, David, Anthony, Enos, Mam Amjad, Ia, Waktap, Sanaver Chukshan Ut, Donna Autumn, the Jowadiga. My name is Michael David Enos, and I reside here in the community known as WAC, which is a part of the Sandover District, which is a part of the Donna Nation here in southern Arizona. So, good blessings to each and every one of you from my community, from my family, and I hope to see you again and be asked to be a part of future events. Tohai, Tamer.
Sapo. Well, everyone, this is the end, but certainly not the last time that we're going to see each other and to gather like this. It's been a beautiful 2 days, and yesterday, starting off our day with the speaker, Damian Carlos, who shared a lot about his journey as a young person. When I met Damien, he was 16, and now he's about 22, 23, I believe. And also with our panel, well, hold on, let me get back to Damien. Well, with Damien, just seeing a lot of his growth, and I want to recognize him because when I asked him to speak, he kind of had a hard time with it, you know, as a lot of our young people do. And so to remind him and encourage him that he has a lot to share and to recognize how far he's come. And also, he didn't bring it up, but when we were talking, one thing he brought up was a lot of the young people that we've lost due to different circumstances, but also to suicide, and how a big part of his work in creating spaces for young people, positive spaces around himdag and around our food, that was a main drive, was to give young people a sense of purpose. And I think that that's something we've heard from all of our speakers, is that our foods and our himdag and each other have given ourselves a sense of purpose, and to have faith, you know, to continue doing this work, to have love, and to, in a lot of ways, be unselfish and be humble, because you have to be to do this work. It's a lot of dedication. Like Gabe said, getting home late, not having time with your families as much as you would want, and be willing to make that sacrifice, and to do it willingly, and to do it happily, is a big thing to think about. And also with Chris and Paco and Nolan, who shared about Bauch from Autumn, Yaqui, and Hopi, and Dene perspective, and from their communities, was really interesting to hear. And then we had a food demo with Alyssa Scosson from Hill River Indian Community from Gadi Akimat Autumn Jewett, as well as a community feature by NAF, the Native American Advancement Foundation out in Gua'a District, and all of the awesome work that they're doing there. And then to come back today to, excuse me, I ate some of that bao earlier before coming on camera, to start our day off with Gabe, to share all of those pictures that were full of fun, and bringing back memories, and bringing back that element of, or bringing to us that element of teamwork. I had the honor to work with the food production crew at Sandover Co-op Farm, and I was always amazed at their commitment to each other, doing everything together, down to, you know, not even eating until they were all ready and they were all done with their work. and making sure that they ate together. And that was really beautiful to see. And then our panel, Dee, thank you to Deandra Porter, to Kyle Snowball, and to Sterling Johnson for sharing your experience as a young oidag and all the work that you've done and where it's taken you. And also to Kyle to thank you for reminding us about the healing of our foods and how our foods can save our lives and how they've saved our lives from sicknesses and addictions and those not so good things that can consume us a lot of times, that this is a way to live a good life. And then to my mom, who shared her memories growing up. And I thank her for sharing a lot of those things for me and my siblings. It's different now, you know, our communities, our great grandparents, you know, our fields, they're not there anymore. But what we're seeing through all of us that have been a part of these past 2 days is that with all of our hard work and dedication and love, that it is possible to bring all of that back, to use this to bring us together and to heal our communities, our nations, and our families. And it's work. It is a lot of work, but it means a lot to me to have my nieces here. They're listening, and I hope that they remember this, because a lot of times they just know that Auntie Amy's always busy. But I'm glad that they get to see some of the things that we work on and to know what it is to give back to community and to provide for community, because that's what I was taught through my grandparents. And then thank you to Mikey. I saw that he tuned in. We just finished with your video. Thank you for sharing the story of the bao. And I got after him. I was teasing him yesterday. I was saying, you didn't even give me a shout out. When I was about 23, when I was crowned Miss Donna Autumn, my grandmother, my huri, she gave me the name of t-oidag, which is Milky Way Light. And she had also given Mikey the name Tomak, and so we give each other a hard time sometimes. And so, but to hear the story and to hear the song as a reminder of why my grandmother gave us those names and why she gave me that name. So thank you, Mikey. And and thank you to all of you for dedicating your time to being with us for these last 2 days, yesterday and today, for spending your morning with us, to hear these stories, to see who our community is and to see who has this knowledge and to hear from them and to remember everything that they shared. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to the speakers, my friends, our community, our family. This is what it means to have community. This is what it means to have a family, to pass these things on, and we can do it together, like Kyle said, and everyone has been saying is together. It's possible, and we can see that through the years that we've gotten involved, and we're all pretty much about the same age generation, and so I'm very proud of all of us, and thank you to IITC, to the International Treaty Council, for all of the food sovereignty work that they've done over the years, but also to open the door for me and for our community to share this knowledge around bao and all our other foods, our desert foods. Thank you to the interpreters, to Rebecca and Jimmy, for providing that service to make sure that the language accessibility and language justice is included in these conversations so everyone can be included. And then thank you to Chris Honani, who is my good friend and work partner, who is always there and who always is very supportive. Thank you, Chris, for everything. And to everyone, especially Sterling for jumping in at the last minute, Nina at Aho CSA, everyone at Sanover Co-op Farm, all of our Hajin from Ankh Akimarotam, Guri Akimarotam, Achin, Atam, Hiachiratam, and Atam in Mexico. And to our Yaqui Hajin as well for joining us, and all nations. And we hope that everything that we shared has been inspiring, has given you some strength, and giving you some motivation to get out there and to plant and harvest our traditional foods to help keep us strong. And so with that, the Upaminye, also a reminder that we would like your support and your help in updating the BAU outcomes document, and you can find that on the IITC website at www.iitc.org to look at that document and see how we can make that a stronger document, because that helps us in our work and our advocacy on behalf of the rights of Indigenous peoples all over the world, to make sure that we have the right to do these things, to have ownership and to share in the way that we would like our foods, our culture, our traditions, and our communities. So Tapo, everyone have a good day. There's no word for goodbye in autumn. It's just the Upaminye. We'll see you again, and take care, be safe, and much love to everyone. Tapo. Thank you, Lily, for the blessing this morning.
You're welcome.
Before we log off, just a quick announcement. Aho CSA is also having their spring foodways gathering, and you can find that on their website. They did provide links in the chat. You can also find them on Facebook, and that's coming up soon. That will feature other community speakers and knowledge holders as well. So we're looking forward to that as far as the next event to talking about food. Up.